This is my very first 3D model. And yes, it's Ironmouse, or at least that's what I wanted it to look like. That looks okay, right? This is so cooked, dude. Oh my god. Cago en la madre los tomate. Why is she purple, dude? What the fuck? I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I think the last time I touched Blender must have been like 12 or 14 years ago. And if I told you that I remember anything from back then, I'd just be lying to you. But for some reason, I decided that my first project should be modeling Ironmouse. This whole project took days, a lot of questionable decisions, and a few crash outs here and there. But somehow, I made it to the end. So let's start from the beginning. Alright, so this whole thing kind of started with me getting into a rabbit hole of these low poly characters and low poly modeling. And I thought it was really cool, so I decided to, try it out myself. I watched a lot of videos before even like downloading Blender. I mainly watched like these, but the first thing that most of them started with was a reference sheet, a turnaround reference sheet where you have the front, side view, and sometimes the back of the character in order for it to be easier to model in Blender. A lot of them mentioned this website called the Models Resource, a really good place to get 3D model references from different games. After looking around a bit, I ended up really liking the style for this fairy tale PSP game. I thought it was really cool and it was exactly kind of what I was looking for, like low poly but also not too low poly, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I ended up using this as a reference to draw my Ironmouse turnaround. What I ended up pretty much doing was any curved line I would just separate into straight lines, because I thought, that's how it would look in low poly, because I don't know what I'm doing. I used the Ironmouse model index to figure out which Ironmouse model I wanted to recreate in the style. I ended up going with the 8th year anniversary design, honestly just cause, though while making the turnaround reference sheet, I decided not to add in the jacket itself because I thought it'd be too complicated for my first time doing something in Blender. So I just ended up just taking off the jacket and just going, bare bones just with the shirt. And that's the process of making the turnaround sheet, and now we can move on to actually downloading Blender. Downloading Blender was pretty straightforward. I just went to their website, clicked the download button, opened up the exe, installed everything, and I was good to go. I started off by loading in each side of the turnaround reference sheet and aligning them to the ground plane. After that, I used the cube to model the basic shape of the shoe. It took me quite a bit to get this middle section cut out. I didn't know exactly what to do, but in the end I figured it out. And yeah, just played around with the different vertices to make it look like the actual reference sheet, and we got a shoe and it looks like shit. So me being my perfectionist self, I decided to restart the whole thing all over again, and I ended up with something that I think looks a lot better than my first attempt. After making the feet and the legs, I went on to model the skirt. I tried to follow the turnaround reference sheet as best as I could, and I realized that I had messed up. I realized that the front and side view didn't actually match up in terms of proportions. And that's really just a skill issue on my part. I should have taken more time to make sure everything was aligned properly. But what can you do? That's what I get for rushing into things, honestly. But it is what it is. We move on. The chest itself was relatively simple, but for some reason, I decided to separate the main chest and the booba. And I'm not gonna lie, that kind of came to bite me in the ass later on. We got the low poly booba, and that's all that matters. As for the arms, I again followed the reference sheet. Now, I could have left the arms as they were and just have a mitten hand, but I decided I wanted this model to have fingers. I looked up a tutorial on how to do low poly arms and just basically just replicated that. So yeah, she got fingers now. Now, making the face is probably what took me the longest throughout this whole process. I was using a video guide to go step by step on what exactly to do. This specific part of the video that they touched on didn't really match up with this art style I was going for, so I tried my best to follow another tutorial video and just kind of freeballed pretty much everything here, honestly. because I really didn't have a reference on how to do this specific hairstyle that I was going for. So this is all just freehand, free balling, and I'm kind of really proud of how it turned out, especially the skulls. Oh my god, I had no reference for the skulls. I kind of just freehand the whole thing, and I think they turned out pretty well. Isn't that right, me? Diablo, cabrón, yo no sé cómo a ti no te da vergüenza subir estas mierdas al internet. Clase porquería. Senda mierda. So yeah, super happy how it turned out. After finishing that, I moved on to the pigtails, and again, same thing. I tried to match the reference as much as I could. There were some things I didn't really know how to do, so again, just free balling. It's like basically the whole experience of me just building up the model. It's just figuring out shit as I go. I'm pretty sure I separated it into 2 parts, like the top part and the bottom part. I don't know why I did that. It just kind of happened, but you know, it is what it is. It looks okay. There's probably a much simpler ways to do that, but fuck it, we ball. Now here, I'm just working on some small details like the collar, the necktie, and the skirt, and the little, what the fuck do you even call that? You know, it doesn't matter. You know, the skirt details. That's what we're working with. And we just modeled the eyes as well. Pretty simple, just 2 circles. And yeah, that's that. Now on to the most painful part of this whole project. UV unwrapping and UV painting. Out of any creative endeavor I've tried, nothing, and I mean nothing, has made me feel like I wanted to kill myself more than this. At its core, from what I understand, UV unwrapping is the process of taking a 3D object and just flattening it down, like unfolding a box and laying it flat. So you kind of have to do that with the 3D meshes, but like I could not understand, I couldn't wrap my head around how these objects that I know aren't box-like are supposed to be unfolded and laid flat in order for me to be able to paint over them. And I just struggled so much on it. Like this is what took me the longest. I was fighting so much with the program because I just didn't understand it. It just didn't make sense to me. Like, how am I supposed to flatten, you know, this spherical type shape thing and get it all neat? And you know, I just couldn't. I'm too smooth playing for it. I genuinely couldn't. But after a little bit, I kind of got the gist of it. I'm still not too certain on how it works exactly. I know I did a terrible job because apparently you're not supposed to like layer the same meshes when you're painting them. Like if something has the same color, you can't really like have the same faces on them if you're gonna use them for like game assets. But I'm not using this for game assets, and I couldn't be bothered to tidy everything up. At this point, I was just mentally exhausted from trying to understand how this worked. And yeah, it was a process. It was certainly a process. I did my best. I tried my best. I know I still need a lot of practice with this, but you know, we move on. I somehow managed to get something that I'm somewhat okay with how it turned out. I wish I added more detail on it, but honestly, I just wasn't ready to do all that and go through the process. Again, we got it to a somewhat alright finished product for this part. So yeah. Also, painting with a mouse is not it. This was very hard. I couldn't get as much detail as I wanted to compared to if I was using a drawing pad, but you know, it is what it is. We move on. Now, rigging was actually pretty straightforward. Rigging is basically creating a skeleton inside the model so that it can actually bend and animate. So I added a bone to everything that I thought I needed to move when animating, including the hair, because I wanted to have some simple back and forth animations with the pigtails and the hair, because I thought it would look cool. Now when it came to weight painting is where you tell Blender exactly how much influence the bone has over the model. It's basically decides what moves and how smoothly it does it. The more red something is, the more it's affected by the bone, and the opposite is true for the blue. This was pretty tedious. I had to go through each limb, tweaking little by little until everything looked right. It was a slow process, but there was something really satisfying about watching it all come together. Now for animation, I didn't want to go overboard for my first try, so I decided to keep it simple and try to do an idle pose, something that just felt alive, like she was breathing or waiting to say something. I moved the bones into the right pose and got to animating. I started a keyframe and just did subtle changes to make it look like she was breathing. And when that was finally done, we got our final product. So yeah, that was my first time modeling something in Blender. I didn't expect to get an actual idle animation out of this, but I'm really happy with how it turned out for the first try. If you want to see more stuff like this, or something maybe a little bit more advanced for the next time, feel free to let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Nos vemos, corillo!